Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Dane, your host. I hope that you're doing great wherever you may find yourselves, and blessings to all of you wonderful people out there. Last November of 2024 was the 50th anniversary of this wonderful album by Yes called Relayer, and at the time I was thinking about doing a video celebrating the 50th anniversary, but I was like, I'm going to wait and see. They're going to put out a box set to commemorate. Nope. I kept waiting, and I decided waiting no more. I'm going to do said video today, but today is part 1 of 3, so I'm dividing it up into 3 videos. And today is talking about the album, and there'll be other things to discuss in the other 2 videos. So again, celebrating the 50th anniversary, part 1 of 3 today. This album came out November 29th, 1974 on Atlantic Records, their 7th studio album. The artwork is from Roger Dean. This still has the slipcase. So you pull this out, you get the wonderful artwork from Roger Dean. Here's the back. You open it up. Wonderful CD with the album art there too. Let me just go ahead and pull it out, folks. There you go. Beautiful. Love that. And then, of course, if you have this on CD, this is the 2003. You can kind of see an image of the band there, some liner notes, and you open this all the way. You get the painting. What is a facsimile of the painting in full. And then you have the photo that one of Patrick Moraz's friends took here of the band. And then you get a booklet which gives you some history and what have you, some photographs. This is a famous photograph of Patrick Moraz leaning back as he is in the throes of ecstasy, musically speaking. And this is like I said, the 2003 edition, reissue, Rhino and Electra combined. And you get 3 bonus tracks, the single edit of Soon, the single edit of Sound Chaser, and the studio run-through of the Gates of Delirium. Of course, the main original 3 tracks are in order: side 1, the Gates of Delirium for vinyl, then side 2, Sound Chaser, and To Be Over. I love the artwork, as I showed you, from Roger Dean, one of his best works, if not his best. For me personally, it's my favorite. It's very monochromatic, if not full-blown monochromatic. It was originally a watercolor. Going back to his college days, they ended up doing a painting from said watercolor. It was inspired by or from the following: the Knights Templar, according to him, the cloistered communities of monks in various parts of Europe, being in the mountains, cloistered off from the rest of the world. Think the Basque country, if you will. I'm not sure if that's the exact place, but... And then, of course, Lord of the Rings, specifically the White City of Gondor. And, of course, you have the people on horseback here. They are the warriors on horseback, and the snake, the warriors symbolizing good, and the black or brownish viper representing evil. Think of the snake in the garden ruining everything and that sort of thing. The first song on side 1, Gates of Delirium. This is Roger Dean's favorite song, and he argues, as I have, that this should have been the name of the album, Gates of Delirium. And the painting that he did at one point was on sale for $6 million. I wonder who pulled the trigger for that. I'm sure someone did buy it for said $6 million. Now, the poem in here goes with the album quite well. And it's from Donald Lemcool, if I'm pronouncing that right, October 1974. Snakes are coiled upon the granite, horsemen ride into the west. Moons are rising on the planet, where the worst most suffer like the rest. Pears are ripe and peaches are falling, suns are setting in the east, women wail and men are calling to the God that's in them and to the beast. So good and evil again. Love is waiting for a lover, generations kneel for peace. What men lose, man will recover. polishing the brains his bones release. Truth conceals itself in error, history reveals its face. Days of ecstasy and terror invent the future that invents the race. Food for thought. Like to do that poem with my students maybe this year. We'll see. But I think it's a beautiful poem, and it fits well with the Gates of Delirium lyrics as well, and the music that is contained within. Now, what's interesting is that before Patrick Moraz joined the band, Vangelis auditioned. He did not get the job. Obviously, Vangelis, a wonderful artist in his own right, from Aphrodite's Child and solo career, Chariots of Fire and that sort of thing. But like I said, Moraz does get the job, coming over from the one and done album Refugee. He brings a level of jazz fusion, and funk to the album. This was number 4 in the UK charts. It was number 5 on the US charts. Certified gold in US, 500,000 plus copies. I couldn't find the information on how it sold in the UK and in Canada or in Australia, but certified gold at least. They had a tour for this from November 74 through and including July 1975, doing the album in its entirety. Produced by Eddie Opherd. You have some interesting differences here from what previously went on with them putting out a studio album or producing a studio album, or in the throes of making a studio album, if you will. One of them is that Steve Howe is using a Telecaster instead of his usual Gibson, a Fender instrument, the Telecaster, as you know, is, and doing some steel pedal guitar, foreshadowing perhaps what comes, definitely foreshadowing what happens with the next album, the follow-up, Going for the One, and some electric sitar, which is quite nice. In addition to some differences, Chris Squire playing the Fender jazz bass on To Be Over, the other two songs, sticking with his Rickenbacker. Also, this is the first time, Yes made an album outside of London. They chose Surrey in this case, which was Squire's home that he had just purchased. Now, we talk about the music. The first track, The Gates of Delirium, inspired by Tolstoy's novel War and Peace, which both Moraz and Anderson have read, and also inspired by a French science fiction novel called Delirious, translating it from the French, that Moraz had read and said to Anderson that it has some of the same themes that Tolstoy's novel does. So those shared themes of war and peace, essentially. It is a suite in 4 pieces. You have the prelude, the charge, and the battle. That's the heavier stuff with Moraz doing his wizardry, if you will, and of course the other band doing their own blend with their particular blend of wizardry for their instruments. And then you have part 3, which is a victory song. And then the 4th part, which is the Soon section, which is about peace at the end of the battle with hope for the future. So we can relate to this. Soon is just amazing. And if I may pull up here the lyrics to that, because I think it's worth noting. Like the other poem that I read, and it's brief. Soon, oh soon, the light pass within and soothe the endless night, and wait here for you, a reason to be here. I love the way Anderson sings that. Soon, oh soon, the time, all we move to gain will reach in calm. Our heart is open, a reason to be here, long ago set into rhyme. Soon, oh soon, the light, ours to shape for all time, ours the right. So a little incremental repetition that works wonders. A beautiful song. This section gives me goosebumps every time. I have them right now just talking about. It's just so moving, again, about peace at the end of the battle and hope for the future. Again, and we can relate to this. A beautiful song in its own right. Different shades going on. Like Rush's La Via Strangiato, The Gates of Delirium was recorded in sections at a time. It's also the song inspired by the motifs that John Anderson had in his head at the time during this part of the year. He played it on piano to his bandmates, and he was struggling getting it onto the piano. According to him in one of his interviews, or his bandmates said he didn't play it very good, but we understood what he was trying to do, and they began to structure it and putting it on tape. Again, Mraz's wizardry is fantastic, as everyone else is on this piece. What a wonderful, beautiful tune in so many ways. It's heavy at times. It's also soft with soon, and so many different textures going on. Track 2 is Sound Chaser. A little anecdote here. When I was a kid growing up, the go-to radio station FM-wise was WRNO, which stood for We Are the Rock of New Orleans. And whenever they had their introductory commercial during various parts of the day, the first few notes of Sound Chaser was what they played. You know, I'm not even going to try to imitate it, but the first opening notes before you get the drums come in. So that first brief 9 or 10 seconds. And for whatever reason, I'm a kid, I'm 7 or 8 years old. I'm thinking that the radio station made that and recorded that with some instruments. And then one day, lo and behold, years later, I'm in high school, and my sister's boyfriend at the time, soon to be her first husband, brings a copy of vinyl, because he brought a lot of his vinyl that she would keep in her bedroom, and they would listen to music in there, and I would come over and listen sometimes and join them. And he showed me this copy of Relayer, and he put it on. He's like, "You're familiar with this. I bet you've heard this before." And I was like, "Oh, that's the WRNO theme." Lo and behold, I had no idea it was actually part of a Yes song. So this is where Mraz is really stepping up with jazz fusion, funk, and perhaps inspired by Miles Davis. You have some flamenco electric guitar from How, something new, kind of, and Mraz's Moog synth solo at the end is just dynamite. Wonderful song. In 1974, jazz is just, in its heyday, right, with Miles Davis and everyone, Herbie Hancock, you name it, that electric period, right? So very much riding the wave, being influenced by that, whether deliberately influenced or not. Track 3, To Be Over. The melody How had wrote and sung much earlier, and impressed John Anderson when one day How wrote it down for him and sung it. Mraz's solo here is a fugue, or a partial fugue, which weaves wonderful keys and synths with the guitar and bass. It's just a treasure of a song, and it's a treasure of an album. Now, which version should you get? Well, it's just a matter of taste. For me, it's again the 2003 version. Here again with the bonus tracks. Some people love the 2014 Steven Wilson mix. I've heard it, but here in my apartment, I don't have a 5.1 setup. I just have a stereo setup. The one thing, though, that prevented me from getting it is, well, the obvious one besides, well, one of the things that prevented me from getting it was that I don't have a 5.1 setup here. But the other thing is, even if I did, I might have passed on it. Here's why. Because you have a disclaimer in the Steven Wilson liner notes. The battle sound effects that can be heard in the background throughout the middle instrumental section of the original mix of The Gates of Delirium are not on the multi-track master tapes. And we have therefore concluded that they were most likely blended in from an unidentified sound effects library, from either quarter-inch tape or a vinyl sound effects LP, whilst mixing the music from the main 24-track tape. For this reason, they are not heard in the new 2014 remixes. Well, my understanding is that the reason those sound effects were on the original version of the album, and they're on here, is because Alan White and John Anderson gathered in a mass of used auto parts from a junkyard and stacked them into a tower and pushed them over in the studio to record that crashing battle part of the song. And so the second reason why I held back from buying the Steven Wilson version is because it's part of my DNA to have that part of the song in the song. So anyway, and some people say that Steven Wilson is amazing, and I believe you, but I want the version that I know and love. So no disrespect to Steven Wilson's a genius, but I'm going to stick to what I know and love, at least for now. At some point, maybe down the road, I will get a 5.1 set up and revisit that. Because I failed to mention, I think I failed to mention that I have heard it because I went to a friend's house who had it, and I remember liking it, but I remember going, something's missing, and then years go by and I see that and I'm like, oh, well, that explains it. So anyway, this is part 1 of 3. Stay tuned next time where I'm going to talk about the recently issued Relayer book celebrating the 50th anniversary of the album. See you next time. Take care. Bye now.